has managed to persuade Japan that its dream of lawfulness of its commercial whaling programs has become reality. This dream has transported Japan into some imaginary land in which international whaling regulation lets states engage in the limitless exploitation of commercial whaling in violation of the objective of conservation and recovery of whale stocks. Whereas the international community has chosen to put a stop to a commercial industry out of control using the Convention of 1946, Japan continues unreservedly its unilateral whaling activities. Now, do we have to wait for some comely white whale to swim along and wake up Japan? I don't think so. What Japan needs, and that's what Australia suggests, what Japan needs is to comply with the text of the 1947 Convention and come back to international legality. In other words, to respect the integrity of the regime flowing from the 1946 Convention. Now, the integrity of an international treaty cannot be guaranteed if you deprive it of its object and purpose. This is an elementary rule of general international law of treaties. Your court recalled this principle in masterly fashion. I shall cite what you said. I quote, "It's a generally recognized principle that a multilateral convention is the result of an agreement freely concluded upon its clauses, and that consequently none of the contracting parties is entitled to frustrate or impair by means of unilateral decisions the purpose and raison d'etre of the convention." And the court then adds, I quote, "To this principle is linked the notion of the integrity of the convention." These words underscore the necessity in the instant case to identify the object and purpose of the 1946 convention. Now, it's no open secret that in interpretation the text is always the starting point. To determine the object and purpose of the 1946 Convention, the position of Australia is absolutely compliant with the rules of international law which govern the interpretation of treaties. Australia's interpretation is based on the ordinary meaning and terms of the Convention of 1946, the context of that convention, and good faith. All these ingredients of interpretation, just like a compass, direct us towards the preamble of the 1946 Convention. Now, this is dispositive at this level, as indeed the vast majority of preambles introducing international treaties. The preamble of the 1946 Convention clearly indicates that when that convention was adopted, its object and purpose were indeed the conservation and recovery of whale stocks. Unlike what Japan would argue, Australia has never asserted that the object and purpose of the 1946 Convention have changed and that conservation and commercial whaling cannot coexist. In this context, Australia has no problem in recognizing that the sixth paragraph of the preamble of the 46th Convention contains the desire, I quote, "to establish a system of international regulation for the whale fisheries to ensure proper and effective conservation and development of whale stocks." End of citation. The point of disagreement between Japan and Australia is elsewhere. The court should not mistake the real source of the dispute between Australia and Japan. What Australia asserts with clear conviction by attaching itself to the letter of the Convention of 1946 is that that convention has for its objective and aim the conservation and reconstitution of whale stocks.